Have you ever jumped off of the couch when your husband walked in just so you didn't look like you were resting? Or over-explained yourself in a conversation where no one asked for an explanation? Or maybe you felt a deep guilt for simply doing less, even when you knew you really needed rest. These are subtle signs of deeper wounds, often rooted in how we were raised and the expectations we placed on ourselves to be productive, perfect, and pleasing. If love sometimes feels for you conditional, if you've been caught in a loop of people pleasing, perfectionism, and over-functioning, then this is an episode for you. We are going to explore how your identity is not in your achievements or your productivity, but in your belovedness as a daughter of God. We are also going to talk about boundaries, healing through Mary, and how to rewire your brain and your spiritual life in a simple way without guilt. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Persistence in Prayer podcast hosted by Catholic mindset coach, wife, mother, educator, and speaker Kylie Hine. Kylie is passionate about helping you deepen your relationship with God through the power of prayer. This podcast is a space for high achievers who want to do it all, but also want to prioritize their spiritual life and grow in faith. Join us as we explore the beauty of persistence in prayer and the transformative impact it can have on our lives. Get ready to discover practical tips, insights, and inspiration to help you develop a daily prayer practice and cultivate a deeper sense of trust in God's plan for your life. Let's journey together towards a more fulfilled and faithful life as we invite the Holy Spirit in. Let's begin. With a background as a nurse practitioner and expertise in neurocoaching and functional medicine, Cristy Murray empowers high-achieving women raised by narcissistic parents to break the cycle of generational trauma and step into a life of healing, growth, and purpose. As a certified neurocoach and functional nutrition coach, she is passionately committed to helping Christian women uplevel their health and relationships through the transformative power of neurocoaching and the Word of God. Cristy, I am so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Will you just start us off by explaining what is neurocoaching?
So, neurocoaching is really digging deep down into the whys of why you're acting the way you are, why your brain works a certain way. So, like a series of questions, and it's really transformative because once you get to the bottom, it's like an aha moment. For
Mhm.
me, I actually started my route for neurocoaching because as an online business owner and working full time and raising kids, I thought, oh, I need help with productivity. So then I got connected to this coach, which I really believe it's God's providence that I got connected to her because through productivity, I realized that, okay, all my barriers and everything that the wall that I hit, it because it goes back to my childhood. And it's because that I feel like I'm not good enough, that I have to constantly prove myself. And that's when I went down to this rabbit hole until I found my answer that, hey, I'm dealing with a narcissistic mom. That's why.
Yes. So really getting to the root, because I think that comes up a lot, is we are attracted to those words like being more productive, being more efficient, getting more things done, but we don't realize that that's not actually the thing that we need. There's something
Yes.
deeper under there that we actually need. Do you
Mhm.
mind sharing some of your story of how you came to this realization and what it was like
Mhm.
growing up with a narcissistic parent?
Yeah, so I was really close. Well, I was and still close to my mom. And I was raised to help people. So I'm a hustler, I'm a high achiever, and everything I do, it seems to go back to, oh, I'm doing this because I have to help people, because I have to do this for them. And then I got really tired. I got really exhausted. And then I started asking myself, why am I doing this? And my husband would say, why are you doing that? I mean, you have a good job, and why are you doing all these extra things that you don't need to do? So then I dug deeper and then I realized, yeah, why am I doing this? What is my reason for this? I'm overextending myself. But then I see the other people that I'm supposed to be helping, they don't care. They take and take and take. But since I've been so conditioned to give, so there's that whole disconnect. And I started just wondering and asking questions like, why am I giving to people? And why am I okay just giving to people who are just so willing to take from me? And when I was in adoration, there's a lot of stuff that happened too. I started noticing like my mother acting a certain way. And because like she's getting older, and for narcissists, when they get older, they actually they're not able to put up that facade anymore when they're younger. And then the resources are starting to get slimmer. So then they act out more. So I started noticing some behaviors that as a medical professional, to me, I can see through it like, okay, that doesn't seem right. What you're telling me doesn't jive with the science. So then I was in adoration one day and I was praying like, God, what's happening? Why am I so conflicted? I love her, but why do I feel this way? And then my phone, it's always on silent because I get a lot of text messages. And then it just dinged and someone posted somewhere, which I can't even find who, it just came up at that time. It says, For daughters raised by narcissistic mothers, this is the book that helped me. So I took a screenshot of it. I said, finish my hour. And then I looked at it again once I got to the parking lot. And then I bought the audiobook and I could have written it and like pretty much answered all my questions. Because there's this daughter, she was writing about her mom's behavior and how she also became a high achiever because she felt like she had to prove herself because she constantly was made to feel like, hey, you're not good enough because her mom was never happy. So, in order for her to get that attention and the love from her mother, she was striving to do more and do more. And yet, she's stuck in this cycle of trying to appease and trying to please, but it was really still never good enough.
Can you break down the word narcissism for us? What is it to be narcissistic? Because I don't think I heard this word a lot growing up. And just in the last couple of years, you're hearing it more and more. And actually, for my prayer time in the morning, I'm using a book called 40 Weeks, which is written by a Jesuit. And there is a chapter in there where we reflect on our own narcissism because narcissism is a form of pride. And so it's
Yes.
passive narcissism, aggressive narcissism, and just spending a whole week reflecting on that in our own life. So I would love to hear you, as an expert, break this down a little bit more.
Yeah. So, there's a flower called Narcissus. And if we go back to mythology, this guy, his name, depending on Greek or Roman, Adonis or Narcissus, he was so enthralled with himself. And he was just staring at himself underwater and he fell in love with himself. And every time he was like, wow, you're beautiful and I love you, but really it's himself. So
Mm.
a person who is all about themselves, they don't care about anyone else or anything else. It's just them. They're in their world, it's all about them, and you just live in it. So then when we go back to there's two types of narcissists. There's covert and overt narcissist. And the more famous one is the overt narcissist. That's the one with a grandiose personality, the one who's, hey, look at me, look at how great I am, and look at what I can do. You're right. I mean, to a certain extent, and it exudes confidence because we have to have some form of confidence. But when you stop caring about the world around you and the people, and that you're hurting people because you really don't care, as long as you look good,
Mm.
that's the unhealthy form of overt narcissist. Now, the covert one is the more dangerous type because they're the passive kind, as you said, and you wouldn't know that they're narcissist because they do things covertly, like they would appear as the helpers in the community. They would appear as if, hey, look, I'm doing this for you. But then they make you feel guilty because they're
Mhm.
helping you. And really, they're doing it for the attention, not because they want to help. It's the people that help because they want to be noticed. So once you notice people that are like wanting something in return because they're helping you, then that's really not a genuine form of a helpful person.
So, people who grow up with this, if they have parents who are narcissists, in your work that you've done, when do they start to identify, oh, my parent is a narcissist, so that they can learn how to move out of that and how to communicate with their parents? Is there a typical age when they start to recognize this?
I wouldn't say that there's a typical age. It really depends on the type of role that you got assigned in a narcissistic home. Because then for narcissistic mom who have several children, like one can be a scapegoat, one is the golden child. So the
Mm.
scapegoat might realize that, oh my gosh, it's always my fault. I am the scapegoat of the family no matter what I do. And because my mother and my sister or sibling is just all about themselves. So then there's also that division there because the mother does not want, it's really quite sad that she doesn't want her children to get along because she wants them divided so she can conquer them separately and not to be hip to her game. So then there's the golden child who may not realize that, hey, my mom's a narcissist because she's a golden child. She's praised. She can't do anything wrong or he can't do anything wrong until the tables turned. That, oh, okay, what's happening now? And it's, when I say it's dangerous because you really don't notice it until later on. Like for me, I didn't realize it until, gosh, I'm almost 50 and I just realized it a few years ago. And here I was thinking that, oh, I'm just close to my mom. She does everything for me. But then, no, she does everything for herself and I'm just a tool.
That has to be hard.
It is. And there's a lot of denial and a lot of grieving and then loss. And that's why it's really important to really do the neuro coaching and then add faith to it. It's because even when you get to the science, once you look at the facts and you're like, okay, this makes sense, deep inside you, your programming is so deep, you still find ways that, what if it's her hormones? What if she's possessed? Right? But
Mm.
so then I start looking, really like asking Jesus and the Virgin Mary about these things. Because if you look at the love that Jesus gave us, he died on the cross without asking for anything in return. He loved us no matter what. There was no conditions. And the Virgin Mary, she's there. She just wants to be loved. She doesn't ask for anything in return. And they're there. That's true love right there. That's true love and unconditional love. And now, as a mother myself, I love my kids. I don't see them as my investments. I don't see them as, if you don't do this, I'm not going to love you anymore.
Absolutely. I want to come back to this. I want to come back to how do we keep relationships and setting boundaries, which I think is part of the work that you do. But can you just explain to us what are some of the common patterns that women who have been raised or been around or part of a narcissistic relationship, what kind of
Mhm.
patterns do they have as they get older?
So there's several. I guess you can go either way. There's a kind or a type that would keep wanting to prove themselves, keep wanting to be loved, keep like striving. Okay, maybe if I become a doctor, maybe if I do this, maybe if I get high grades, I'll get noticed. So then there's that. It's kind of like that Pavlov's dog. Hey, I'll give you a reward if you do this. If we go back, if we start from childhood, hey, I got good grades. Okay, that's when you get praise. But if you don't get good grades, you don't get the praise and you don't get attention. Children are conditioned to think that I'm only worth my grades. I'm only worth what I can offer. So, in order to feel good and feel loved, that's what I'm going to keep striving for. Or then there's the other type that I'm just not good enough no matter what I do. So then they give up. And then just, I am nothing. I feel sorry for myself and I'm not worth anything. So why even bother?
I could see this even when I was teaching in
Mhm.
both males and females that, well, I'm not even going to try because then I'm just going to fail, or the I'm striving, 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 and the 99 still isn't good enough.
Yeah. And you can see the difference from children who have supportive parents. They're not afraid to fail. If they fail, they're like, okay, then I'll try. And there's no inadequacy because they're confident in themselves that, hey, I'm loved no matter what.
Mhm. Which really is what I hear you saying with the identity and going back to the love of Christ and the love of the Blessed Virgin Mary. How has your faith, you've talked about it a little bit, but played into your own healing journey?
Yeah, so actually, especially being Catholic, we feel like we're always guilty of a lot of things, whether it's our fault or not. So I'm like, question myself, what if I'm wrong? Oh my gosh. I'm like, I feel bad that I feel this way towards my mom. And what if I get punished for it? Because that's how I was raised. Like, if you don't do as I say, you're going to be punished. God's not going to be happy with you. And then, oh, yeah. So there was this thing too that she's really religious. And she would say things like, it's almost like taking the glory from God. And which I just now realized that, wow, it's like she would steal my prayers.
Mm.
She would say, what do you need? And then, of course, as my mom be like, well, can you help me pray for these things? And like later on, she'd check back and she'd say, well, how was that thing that you needed help with? And I would say, oh, yeah, it's better now. And she goes, see, because I prayed for you, because God listens to me. So then I'm thinking, God doesn't listen to me. I have to go through my mom.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, she stole my connection to God.
Ah. I would love to hear, how do you keep a relationship going with your mom? You've come to this realization, and obviously you talk about this publicly, and I'm sure your mom knows this. How do you keep that relationship going? That has to be challenging.
Uh-huh. So there's several family members that I've talked to about it, and they don't understand that. Like, it's almost, hey, that's just how she is. That's the norm. But then I would lay down the facts like, doesn't it make you think that when this was happening, she was acting this way? So some family members are receptive to it. Some are like, yeah, you're right. I can see that. But some are like, oh, no, that's just how it is because that's how it is in her family, blah, blah, blah. And of course, she'll never accept that label or the fact that, hey, I'm this. Of course, in her mind, she's always saying, I did it all for you. If I didn't do this, you wouldn't be this way. And that's another thing, too. Like, there was no credit for anything that I do. Like, hey, I've achieved this. And they'll be like, okay, so you wouldn't be that way if I didn't do this for you. So it's what about the hard work that I did? And like, even as simple as, oh, I got my hair done. Oh, no, it's too short. It's not red enough. Or it's like you didn't get anything done. So it's almost like, why am I even sharing my good news? Because there's no celebration.
Mhm.
Some people would say, you look good. And I would tell my mom, oh, someone said, oh, I look good. And then she'd say, oh, yeah, because we're just naturally like that. And you got that from me. And I get praise too. And a lot of people. So then all of a sudden it's like about her. So after a while of that, I'm like, why am I even like, why is this, is this even a conversation? But that was the norm growing up. So I didn't even think anything of it, but now that I've realized it and having normal conversations, normal relationships, and I would tell them about how it is like me growing up, they actually feel sorry for me. They're like, oh my gosh, Christy, I'm so sorry you went through that. And I was like, well, don't be. I appreciate you having sympathy for me, but it's so normalized that it wasn't even painful until I realized it.
So if you do something well that she can take credit
Hmm.
for, she will.
Yep.
And if she can't take credit for it, then you didn't do well at all,
Yes,
is what I'm hearing.
exactly. Exactly.
So I'm just thinking, when we're kids, you always hear, you might hear your mom say, oh my gosh, I'm turning into my mother. And my sister and I will joke, oh my gosh, we sounded just like our mother there. My mom's passed away, but we will still say that. We'll just find ourselves saying these things because you heard them so many times growing up. So in your situation or in people's situations like this, how do you keep from living out those same tendencies or just saying some of those same phrases that your mother said, even though you know, I don't want to be like this.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
well,
our brains, again, I think it's the rewiring, but walk me through that.
yeah, so there was one time my son was doing something and then I said something and then he was hurt by it. But for me, I was like, why you hurt? I got told that when I was young. But then I just saw like the pain in him and I was like, wow, I don't want him hurt like that. So then actually like a series of those things, that's when I started, okay, maybe it wasn't right the way I was raised. And then I saw how my mom started treating my kids too. And I was like, oh no, no, no. That's how you treated me when I was a kid. And I am not gonna allow you to treat my kids like that. This stops. So then I actually even talked to her about it. I said, I saw how you talked to him. And then I remember you treating me like that when I was that age. And of course there was no accountability, there was no apology. acted like a toddler, don't even talk to me, and then stormed off and started stomping like a child. So when I go back to these things that, oh no, it's okay, it wasn't her fault, I remember these instances like, oh, nope, that's classic, that's textbook. So now I have to protect my kids. So now actually, I don't notice me acting like her anymore. And then when I see certain good things for my kids, like if my kids would come talk to me and open up to me, it gives me the gratitude that my kids are able to talk to me and then we're able to have that open conversation because I wasn't able to do that. So it tells me that I'm doing something right.
It's interesting you talk about kind of protecting, and my favorite definition of boundaries is protecting what we value.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what you're doing. How do you teach women how to set boundaries? Because this is hard, I think, for a lot of people. I know this is a struggle for myself, especially that person who it's like you want to do and do, the strivers, right? But then you also are always supporting other people. Healthy boundaries are so important. How do you teach women to do that?
Well, first, always ask for God's grace and just say, God, is this what you want me to do? Because if it's your will, then so be it. Give me the grace to power through it. And I think it's part of the discernment. Is it a certain person that wants us to do that or be that way? Or is it God who wants us to do it? I think that would be the first step. And then who's benefiting from it, right? I think for me, like that's the ultimate, like who's benefiting from it, who's suffering and who's benefiting.
Yeah. I think something else that could come up too is that commandment, honor thy mother and father. And am I still
Yes.
honoring them? And how do I have
Hmm.
these conversations? Because then she's going to be hurt or play the victim or whatever it is. And then, like you said, the feeling guilty,
Hmm.
does that
Yeah.
come
So
up?
yes, that is the biggest one because the commandment. And I talked to several priests about it. It's like, this is my biggest struggle, part of the commandment, and like therapist. And so the question is, are you really honoring them by continuing that cycle? Are you really honoring them by allowing that pain to pass through the next generation? And who are you honoring by not protecting your children or the next generation or yourself? Are you honoring them if you continue to give in to the pain and the suffering, but then you're not a good person because of that? Is that honoring them? And is that honoring God? And who do you really want to honor? Do you want to honor God or do you want to honor that kind of behavior that could potentially ruin generations to come?
Yes. I remember talking at OCIA about this, about honoring my mother and father, especially if you have an abusive parent or something like that. And it's that exactly what you said. Honor doesn't mean that you give in to everything that they ever say or that you just take it, right? Honoring them sometimes means you separate yourself from them or you do set a boundary. And I think in this situation, part of the honor is helping them to identify the narcissism because clearly they can't see it in
Mhm.
themselves. And it doesn't mean that they're going to have a 180 and change completely. But
Yeah.
as an adult, like you said, you are protecting your children, but you
Mhm.
also are loving them, right? It's willing the good for them,
Yes.
and
Yes.
their good is to not continue the rest of their life treating people that way.
Yeah, you're right. It's loving them from a distance, and then you continue to pray for them and not really hating them because of your childhood, because they're humans too, and they went through their own trauma. It's trauma that they didn't deal with. And it's really important because, and I mean, part of my healing is the Virgin Mary, she's our mother. So no matter what, she's our mother. And I can bring my earthly mom to the Virgin Mary to be mothered by her as well. So
I
I
love
walk
that.
hand in hand with her. Hey, and I do, and I pray for her, like Virgin Mary, mother her too. Maybe show her the right way to be mothered, the right way to be loved. 'Cause maybe that's what she needs. And I pray for her soul and I pray for her, and I always will always love her. But I will protect my children and I will not continue this cycle.
Absolutely. So, are your children aware? Do you use this language around them?
They've heard me and they've heard me like with my podcast. Sometimes we'd be driving and then my podcast would come on. I was like, this voice sounds familiar. Oh, it's me. And then they'd hear me recording in the other room. So then there's certain things that would happen too. And then they would hear it and then they'd make comments. So it's not a secret because they've seen how she would act. And I'd explain to them that, hey, there's this thing called this. And because sometimes I'd ask, like, why is she acting that way? She doesn't realize that her actions are affecting other people. And then sometimes I would say, when I was a kid, she would do these, and this is why I choose to be around you. This is why I choose to do things with you. Because I went through something that I don't even want you to go through.
Mhm. When you are setting a boundary with,
Mhm.
let's just say anyone, it doesn't even have to be a parent.
Mhm.
What are your steps for coming up with that boundary? I know there are some people who say, okay, here's a line in the sand. This is the boundary. You know, we're not going to see you except for on these days, or we're only going to see you in these situations. Or if we hear you say these things, then we're going to remove ourselves. What are the lines? They might be flexible lines, but
Uh huh.
what are some of the lines that you draw in terms of boundaries with a narcissistic parent?
So the best definition of a boundary that someone had told me is boundaries are not walls. Because if you set up walls, there's potential that you imprison yourself behind those walls, that you don't know what's happening on the other side. But if you choose boundaries as gates, you can still see what's happening on the other side. You're not closed off and you can choose what you allow in or what you allow to be out. So for me is when I call, I prepare myself. This may not come out the way, or what am I expecting out of this conversation? And why am I even calling? For a while, when I was starting to heal, I would just get so riled up when she would respond a certain way. But now, whenever she'd act a certain way or say certain things, I'm just going to be like, that's really negative, and I just really don't want to hear that right now. So I have to go. Or I would say, I can't believe you even said that. It really depends on, I guess the first thing is not to get emotional about it because
Mm.
they know how to push your buttons. They're triggers. So if you just like stick to the facts, know who they are and know what they are, that you really can expect them to be someone that they're not. And I had shared with someone before, you can't expect a dog to purr the cat because they're dogs. You can't expect a cat to start barking because they're cats. That's their nature. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner that you're going to be seeing things for what they are.
I was just thinking it's that Christ love, that unconditional love of loving them without expectations, loving them with expecting nothing in return. Because you know from past experience it might not go well, but you're still choosing to engage in that conversation anyway. And like you said, sticking to the facts, recognizing locus of control. I cannot control their emotions, their reactions, the things that they say, but I can control my emotions, my reactions, my responses,
Mm-hmm.
my decision to hold resentment or to forgive.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I'm forgetting,
Mm-hmm.
but I can let that go because I know that it only wounds me and then in turn wounds the people around me.
Yeah. At a certain point, you start recognizing the poison that you're drinking. So then you choose to just, you know what? I know you're giving it to me, but I'm putting it down. I'm not drinking it anymore.
How important is it for you and for the women that you serve to have that support group, that place? I'm guessing for you, your spouse and your children, obviously, who love you, that place where you can receive that love without any striving or without any performance.
Hmm. Oh, it's very important because you don't understand this type of behavior until you're raised in it. So if I would tell someone who have really good relationships with their parents, they look at me like, you're a bad child. You're talking bad about your parents. But then really, so like for me, it's like I don't have to defend myself. Your child is different from my childhood. And we've been gaslighted a lot. Like part of being raised by a narcissist is being dismissed a lot. Oh, you're just being dramatic. You're overreacting. Oh, that's nothing. And you do get gaslighted. And sometimes you gaslight yourself. Like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. And it does affect, like, even at work. You're right, but someone just says, oh, no, you're in the wrong. And then you start questioning yourself, maybe if I'm wrong. Because growing up, you were always told that you're wrong and you were raised to, it's always your fault. So it's really important to have that support, that someone who listens to you and just doesn't dismiss you.
Absolutely. Do you have any favorite transformation stories from some of the women that you've worked with, from when they started with you to how things have shifted in their life after working with you?
So the fastest transformation with me is I was just having coffee with someone, and then they were afraid to have this conversation with one of their friends. And she was just like, well, she texted me and said we need to talk. And so all of a sudden her mind's just going through this thing. What does she want? And what if she blames me? I'm just gonna tell her this and this. So her mind automatically went to the defensive. And then I told her, like, number one, you don't know what she's gonna say. You're conditioning yourself to just, hey, it's your fault that she wants to talk to you because you did something wrong. What if she did something wrong? What if she's the one who wanted to apologize to you? But she's
I'm
like,
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because I just had this conversation with my husband. I had a podcast interview set up recently with someone, and they didn't show up on time, and I instantly went to, "Oh my gosh, did I send the wrong link? What did I do wrong?" And I sat there for a minute and I started praying and I was like, "Why did I just assume that I did something wrong? Like, they could just be running late. They could have lost the link." And I told that to my husband, and he goes, "You do that a lot." He goes, "Unless it's me," and then you're like, "I'm 100% right." I'm sorry, continue.
yeah, I guess, I mean, it's normal behavior, but then, yeah, you're right, though. We have to catch ourselves. And it does affect, like, how we deal with things, how we deal with people. Yeah, it's self gaslighting.
Yeah, and I think if you grow up with this, and I'm sure you see this, it transfers over into all of your relationships. That distrust or the way that you assume that people are gonna react, or maybe even a fear to say what's on your mind because of
Yes.
how you think someone will react or blame you or make you feel guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or that you're always wrong and you can't do anything right, so it's always your fault. Why even bother? And then you don't even stand up for yourself. So then you become someone's doormat. Then you become resentful. And yeah, it's this whole, that's why it's really important to work through it and really uncover that. Because, like, you can convince yourself, but if you don't go to the root cause of the why, it's not really going to be fully addressed. And even if you uncover it, if you, because like me, I've uncovered it, but there was that missing piece. For me, the missing piece was the faith. It's like,
Mm.
hey, I'm loved no matter what, because Jesus died for me on the cross and he died for everyone. He died for her, he died for you. And like, even now, he's loving us unconditionally.
So that was gonna be my next question is once someone recognizes this, they recognize this type of relationship, this type of wound that they have, Jesus is part of the healing journey. But we can know that in our head. How do you help women to really fully embrace that and understand it and start this rewiring of their brain?
hmm It's a work in progress. It's constant boundaries and it's constant journaling and going back to the facts. I'd be lying if I say that I wasn't in pain and I wasn't resentful or hateful, but humanizing that person, not really labeling them as you're just that. Because now understanding that she had a childhood too, and it was passed on to her, she probably believed that was right. But the difference is it's something you can't keep using it as an excuse. That's how I was raised, and that's just how it is. If your child is hurting, or if the people that you love are hurting, it's part of you being a loving parent to listen to your child and just say, what can I do to ease your pain? What can I do for you? Instead of just saying, nope, that's just how it is. Too bad. Suck it up. I ended up okay. It's no, your child is hurting. Listen to them. And so, an example is I was talking to someone about sports. So, like with sports, we We parents, we get really excited, cheering for our kids when they're playing. And she had told me that she was so mad at her mom because her mom was being so loud in the bleachers and she was playing volleyball. And then after the game, she said, I was so mad at my mom. And I just said, I can't believe you were so loud and you embarrassed me. So her mom, being the loving mom that she is, her mom said, Oh, I'm sorry. I was just so excited because you were playing so well. I just really wanted to cheer for you. So with that, I was like, that's really like a good loving relationship and good exchange between you and your mom because your mom recognized that, hey, you were embarrassed. Granted that she was really excited for you, but her mom said, okay, I'll try to not be that way anymore. But I just wanted to know you're playing so well. So that was really good. But in a narcissistic relationship, the mom would be like, I'm really proud of you because I'm paying. It's like really totally will dismiss the child's cry for help and totally just say, hey, I'm your mom. I'm doing this. So you're going to deal with it.
So it's really taking time to listen.
Hmm.
I just want to acknowledge and say I am so grateful for you for just being human and saying, I work with people and I help them through this, but it doesn't mean that I'm completely on the other side. Because I think so often we can hear all this messaging from people like, I'm going to fix this for you, or I used to be like this and now I'm not like that anymore. And I just think in reality, we can be so far from where we were, but those wounds are always going to resurface and they're going to pop up and we can help people move forward, but we are all still human. And until we're in heaven, we are all going to still be dealing with some of the same stuff. So I just want to say thank you for just saying, I'm still in the middle of it. These things still come up. They don't just entirely disappear. And even talking about your coaching, like, yes, you can move people forward sometimes very quickly, but it is a process and it is something that you have to work at. It's not a one-time fix.
Yeah.
So,
It's not. And it affects us emotionally, physically, and sometimes even spiritually. Like I've heard some people, they switch religions because they are so traumatized by the religion that was forced on them, which is really sad because I know a lot of Catholics leave the Catholic Church because they were just, how do I say this in a non-offensive way?
you
Like,
just
but
say it.
I know, but we're humans,
Mhm.
right? And we make mistake and we get infiltrated by bad things.
Absolutely. If we are always placing our happiness in our circumstances, we will always be disappointed because the evil one can impact our circumstances.
Yes,
The only thing he can't impact is God. So we have to place our hope and our joy in God.
exactly.
Speaking of being Catholic, and you've talked a lot about Mother Mary, but
Mhm,
for people who have difficult relationships with their mother,
mhm.
Mary can be hard to embrace.
Yes and no, because like for me, Mary became my solace. She became my safe
Mm.
place. For me, it's okay, my earthly mother failed me, but Mary's there. And maybe Mother Mary can help my earthly mother too.
I love that. So for you, it was the opposite.
Hmm.
I was going to ask you if you had any advice for women who struggled with Mary. This is a question I ask frequently just because this is something that people ask me about. And I'm always looking for other ways that people came into this relationship with Mary. But it sounds like yours was fairly natural.
It is, it's natural. And it's interesting now that you say it. It's hard to explain because to me, she's just always been there for me.
Hmm.
And I never really blamed her for anything. We just came back from Lourdes, France,
Hmm.
and I highly recommend if there's any pilgrimage that you take, just go straight to Lourdes. Because as soon as the bus pulled up in, in that vicinity, just feel the sacredness of the place. And we were in front of the grotto and I was praying. So there was a priest in front of me and another person, and they're part of a healing ministry. And the priest said, just whatever you're holding on to, just let it go. Give it to Mama Mary. She's right there. And the grotto was right there. And the other girl, she said, "Mother Mary wants me to tell you that I am your mother. Am I not your mother?" And that's when it clicked for me. It's, "You're right. You are my mother. You are. So here it is. I'm giving everything to you." And I feel like that's when everything got lifted off of me to where I even called my mom right after that. I said, "Hey, I'm here and I'm praying for you."
So beautiful.
Mhm.
And fun fact, everyone, Christy is in Alaska. You're talking about traveling to Lords, and I just think I wanna go to Alaska too.
Let me know when you're here.
Where exactly in Alaska are you?
In Anchorage.
Anchorage. Okay. Do you have any Marian devotions that you particularly love or pray?
Oh, for Lady of Lourdes is one. Fatima. I think those are my 2 favorites because I don't know, it's like for me, Mother Mary's just Mother Mary no matter what form. I just ask
Yeah,
her.
absolutely. I just started the Impossible Novena. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. So last year was the first year I prayed it. I sent it out to my email list the day that it started, but it is a 9-month novena. So you start on the Feast of the Annunciation and
Mhm.
go through Christmas. And I struggle to finish 9-day novenas, right? I just get lost on day 7 or just lose track because I'm always forgetting to look up the prayers. But the 9-month novena, you memorize the prayers so quickly and they're the same every day. So it's not like you have to ever look anything up. So I can
Oh,
pray it in my car, I can pray it while I'm sitting with my kids, but it's for these impossible causes. And you pray it it's supposed to be for 3 intentions. You pray it for 9 months, and it's through our Blessed Mother. So, I just think it's beautiful. I've just been praying that with there's some other women, and there's a Facebook group that
mhm.
tracks it, and the lady in charge of it will post pictures of, like, how big baby Jesus would be along the way. So, it's a beautiful thing. If anyone looks it up, you can Google the Impossible Novena. There's a whole website on that. So, if you're looking for a Marian devotion,
Wow, okay, yeah, I have to look that up. I
I'll
did
throw that one out there.
yeah, I did the consecration to Jesus through Mary, and it's 33 days. So then you're supposed to start a specific day because then it ends at one of the Marian feast days.
What was your feast day?
The Ascension.
It was, okay.
Yeah. So then it's interesting too, because I had that book when I was in adoration. Like, please go to adoration. You will like it's the best kept secret. If you have time, if you live close to a church, go to adoration and take that opportunity. You hear Jesus there. So then I was looking at it, I was like, oh, maybe I should do this. And then I was asking just, I'll do it if you want me to. When do you want me to do it? So now I flip to the next page and it's tomorrow. I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm starting tomorrow. Because yeah, if I would have start like tomorrow for that date, then it would end at the feast day. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, wow, this is really, I'm like being told to do this at a certain day. Cause I was thinking, like, oh, I'll set up a day, maybe like a week from now or 2 weeks from
Mhm.
now. It's like when I flipped over to the pages, do you start tomorrow? The feast day is this, and that's perfect. I'm like, all right, then.
That's amazing. I tried mine once, and then it was the middle of volleyball season, and I was still coaching, and I was so inconsistent. I was like, "I don't really feel like I'm ready to do the consecration." So, my friend and I restarted, and I did the full Louis de Montfort one. So, it starts out, you're like, "Oh, it's not that bad. Like, these don't take that long." And then you get toward the end, you're like, "This is a lot of prayers. This takes a lot of time." But it was so good. It was so good. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think I wanna restart it again because I know there were days that I'm just like, "Okay, I'm falling asleep." I know I'm not, like, fully immersing myself here.
Yes, I do try to do different ones. I know I have the 33 days to morning glory, and then I actually have one that's you can do with your kids, a book that someone gave me. So, one of these years when it's coming up on the anniversary, I think I'm gonna try to do that one with my daughter.
Mhm. Wow. I do a lot of spiritual, like, prayers of deliverance, like,
Oh,
spiritual
yes.
prayers, and I listen to Father Dan Rio's podcast, it's called Battle Ready. Highly
Okay.
recommend it as well, and he actually said if you pray the novena of the 7 sorrows Mother Mary will help you see things for what they truly are. And like people's intentions for you will be revealed or some stuff like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I did I would meditate on the 7 sorrows, and I did it consistently for a little while, and then I dropped off, and then I found a little handout in one of my books, and I started it again, and then I dropped off. So I will have to pull that out. It's really we're recording right now during Lent, but that would be a good one to pick up again. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll have to look at that 9-month novena.
As we get toward the end, towards closing, do you have any last tips, words of wisdom for any women who maybe have grown up with a narcissistic relationship or maybe still have a narcissistic relationship, whether it is a spouse, a friend, a parent?
hmm So look for your identity and ask God for the grace to help you find your identity in Him. Because it's really up to Him. What is your purpose here on earth? What does He want you to do? And it's Him that you really need to please, not any human, not any person who will use you as a pawn, not any human who, would take advantage of you. And you can't do it by yourself. It's really through God's grace, and everything is through God's grace. I would love to say read all these books, listen to all these podcasts, and go to therapy. You can really willpower your way through everything, but there's always going to be that missing piece. And you only achieve that through God's grace.
Amen. So beautifully said. Thank you, Christy. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at blueveilwellness.com. So that's a neuro coaching and a perimenopause coaching. I lead this mission to help women, really mentally, spiritually, and physically. And I know a lot of women, especially the ones who are older now, going through perimenopause, totally dismissing their symptoms and their health. And it's probably because they've been brought up a certain way. So I like to combine the faith and the physical healing through that. So blueveilwellness.com is one place you can find me. And if you're wondering, like, hey, was I raised by a narcissistic mom? I don't know, because sometimes she's awesome, but then sometimes she'd yell at me or hate me. There's a quiz that you can take. It's called Heal Maternal Wounds. So you just type that in, and then it'll take you to a quiz, and then see what happens.
Amazing. I always end with a guest with a prayer tip or scripture verse. So I think the prayer tips are fascinating just to see different ways that people pray or how their routines are so diverse throughout their day. And you said the first thing that you do in the morning is this.
Is the rosary. I always reach for my rosary. I changed it up before, but for me, it's like now I've told myself I'm not gonna get out of bed or let my foot hit the floor unless I've finished a rosary.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I do pray rosary every day, but it is not before I get out of bed. So
It's a
that is
challenge. So
beautiful.
you fall back asleep sometimes.
I love that. Thank you, Christy, so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope a lot of women can find the help and the healing that they need.
Absolutely. Beautiful souls, thank you again for journeying with me. If you have been blessed by this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review. Be sure to screenshot it, share it on your social media stories, and don't forget to tag me on Instagram or Facebook at Kylie M. Hine. Stay persistent in prayer, protect your peace, and as always, share the light of Christ with everyone around you.